The hardest part for me at the beginning was feeling confident enough in myself to even tell people that that's what I wanted to do. We were just kind of experimenting and like, let's throw this kind of a song on there. Let's throw this kind of a song on there. As I grow up and have new experiences, I'm in my like mid-30s now. Now Beyonce's is up there. So I think now we're the #2 grown woman track on Spotify. I'm still performing locally with like a wedding event band I sing backup with, which is a ton of fun and much lower pressure. And just like, I just get to dance and party and sing like oohs and ahs and stuff.
The song you've released that's sort of your favorite?
I love listening to all my music.
Hey, if you're like me and you're interested in the YouTube or creator space, you should check out The Published Press. The Published Press is a completely free newsletter founded by YouTubers Colin and Samir. They host their own podcast talking to some of YouTube's largest creators. They've edited some of the best content I've seen on YouTube, and now they're sharing their knowledge about the YouTube space with you for free. The Published Press comes out 3 times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, with everything going on with your favorite creators and platforms. And like I said, it's completely free. Just enter your email address to receive the Published Press whenever it comes out, and that's it. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description below, sign up to the Published Press, and get all the info you need on the industry. My guest today is a singer-songwriter as well as an educator who has been a part of multiple successful bands, but is now focusing on her solo work. She has an upcoming album, Ingenue Corrupt, that will be released by the time this comes out. Please welcome Ariel Arbisser to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Hello. I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I see you got all the plaques and discs behind you. I love the
I do,
backdrop.
yeah, from college a cappella onward, yeah.
Yeah. And so for college, you went to Cornell. You're expecting music to be this sort of like side thing or a hobby. What changed to make it like something you wanted to pursue or the main thing for you?
So I was studying like pre-labor law stuff at Cornell, which was interesting, but not really where my heart was at the time. And it occurred to me that the only stuff I really voluntarily left my dorm for was a cappella rehearsals and musical theater stuff. So eventually it kind of came up that maybe I should be thinking about a career involving singing. And the final moment really was my parents came up to see me in a musical. I was in Songs for New World, Jason Robert Brown musical, and they had always been, supportive of singing, but not super enthusiastic about the idea of me pursuing it as anything serious. And the morning after, we were eating breakfast, and my mom just looked at me and she was like, I don't understand why you're not doing this. And it was a bit of a wake-up call for me to think about it a little more seriously, and everything sort of shifted in my life from that point on.
Yeah, great. And it's great that you had parents that like were supportive of music or like, encourage you to go for it. Maybe they needed to see that performance to know like, okay, she's good at
For
this.
sure.
But it's still nice that you had that. And so if there's
Absolutely.
someone else who's like sort of getting that realization or that wake up call, like, hey, maybe I should do this, what tips or advice would you give them just to like get started or how they should start their career?
I mean, I think that the hardest part for me, honestly, other than the hardest part is the like social media side for me, and just like not getting discouraged by how hard that is, and like the never ending slog of, like needing to post and not feeling like anybody's watching, but also knowing you need to keep posting, and it's difficult. But the hardest part for me at the beginning was like feeling confident enough in myself to even tell people that that's what I wanted to do. I remember feeling like it took like a year, maybe 2 years to even like not apologize when I told people like I want to be a singer, I want to like make music. And so I think just like giving yourself that time and grace to like find that confidence within yourself and believe if you want to do that, it's up to you to be able to do that. Like you have the power to find your way and find where you fit into that world. So I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And also, like, back to the social media thing you were talking about, like, I feel like a lot of people are sort of desensitized to like numbers, or they don't see social media as like real or anything like that, in the sense of like for even this podcast, I put up a lot of like clips and stuff like that online,
Sure.
and a couple of my videos have done better, but most of them get like 200, 300 views, which other people look at
Which
it and
is
they're like,
great.
oh, that's not too many. That's like basically nothing. And I'm like,
It's
so
awesome.
for a second, imagine standing up on a stage in a room and speaking to 200 or 300
Totally.
people. It's like, does that still feel like nothing?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
that's still 200 people that, even if they weren't interested, at least saw me and got knowledge of who I
100%.
was. Are you a music artist trying to find a way to get your music on as many streaming platforms as possible? Then check out DistroKid. DistroKid is a super user-friendly and super easy-to-use service that will make your music available in stores like Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, Amazon Music, YouTube, Snapchat, everything. Everything you could imagine, it's available. People will even be able to add your songs into their Instagram stories. DistroKid helps you with the distribution, monetization, and promotion of all of your music. Use the link in the description of this video for 7% off any DistroKid package you want. Pick from musician packages designed to help artists get their own music out there, or even get a label package where you can manage up to 100 artists from one profile. So that's more for like managers, labels, and you can also get the musician package that I mentioned earlier, which is more for artists, producers, things like that. It's super easy, and you can get 7% off any package right now with the link in the description of this video. So once again, if you're looking for a way to get your music on as many streaming platforms as possible, I'm talking any platform you can think of, get DistroKid and get 7% off right now with the link in the description. Back to the program. You start pursuing music, you go around to all these bands, you're now solo, but going back to your like first live show, the first time you sang as like Ariel Arbisser, what was that like for you?
The first time I sang under my own name, singing my own music, was amazing. I did not have an album ready yet. I was like in the midst of recording my first album, but I rushed ahead 3 songs just so that I had like a little EP sampler to sell at that show. I was opening for like a really big local band. And it was amazing. It was just like, it's the same story, I think, of when I needed to, or when I was trying to convince myself to like be confident enough to tell people I wanted to sing. I think, I was inviting musicians to start playing my music, and I just remember like worrying that they were going to hate the songs, or like, were they going to show up to rehearsal or like bail after the first rehearsal, and like they just kept coming back and they kept being enthusiastic, and like, and then people came to the show and they clapped, and like it was exciting that my family was able to come out and I had friends there, and it just was this very cathartic moment of getting to sing all of these messages that had been like bottled up inside of me for so many years that I hadn't been able to share yet with the world. And it was a really exciting and relieving experience. And I still feel like I get that experience every time that I perform.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. And I want to get into, you mentioned like being in the process of recording your album. You started making it a couple years back in 2018, and
Mhm.
then you at some point like put a pause on its creation and like later on returned to finish it off. What
Yes.
was it? I mean, it's a album all about sort of like relationships, like love life. Was it that subject matter just being hard to write about, or what prompted the hiatus
The
in
hiatus.
writing it?
So that was my first album, Risk of Love. And I really wrote that over my like 20s. I was like just learning how to write as I was doing it. And I went into production in 2017, 2018, around there, and had kind of a whirlwind of recording and producing. And then right when I was about to release it, like when I had that first performance and released that sampler, I ended up getting into, unfortunately, I got into like a really terrible relationship that was not written about on that album, but was an abusive relationship, and it just threw me totally off track. I really like got taken away from music and taken away from everything that I cared about in my life for a couple of years. And um, everything on the album just kind of got put on pause and like left to the side for a while. And
Yeah.
it was a pretty wonderful time doing some processing and therapy during the pandemic to come back to that and be able to release it in 2021 was really exciting and beautiful.
Yeah, I'm sure. And was that sort of like a sense of relief of releasing it? Like, did you feel like you could now put all that behind you or like
Yeah,
get past it?
totally. Relief, redemption, just like such an empowering moment to feel like, I came back. This is my life, my journey, like my art, and I'm not gonna let it just fall to the wayside. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Cool.
And so in general, when you're in the writing process, whether it's just for a song or you're in the middle of working on a larger album, what does your creative process look like? Are you starting with music and the melody? Do you write lyrics first? What does it look like?
I it's a little different every time, I would say. I do a lot of collaborating when I write. I am not really especially like uh facile, is that the word I'm looking for? I'm not especially like talented on any specific instrument. I can like play chords on guitar and piano, but I'm not like gonna sit down and like write out the whole arrangement myself.
Yeah.
um so I often will write lyrics and melody and plunk out some chords and then work with somebody to like describe the arrangement that I can hear and see in my head and work with them to kind of flesh that out. And often I found that collaborating with people just elevates, whatever idea I have. They come with their own influence and their own ideas, and it just becomes even better. So a lot of my stuff is collaborative, and sometimes that works in a way where a couple of the songs on my upcoming album uh, happened where somebody in my band would send me an idea, right? So they had like either just an instrumental track that they sent me and I wrote over it, or they had like a verse chorus that they would send me and then I would finish the song, stuff like that. So it's a little different every time and kind of exciting to kind of still be exploring different approaches to every time I sit down to write a song.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's a lot of times it can be nice to have some sense of collaboration or like a collaborative way of making a song and going through that creative process. And so, for your sound, like it's pretty unique, but you take inspiration from other artists, and if you do, how do you still find your own unique sound within that?
I mean, I think I don't really like just plan on taking inspiration from other
Yeah,
artists. I
it's
think
more
that like
subconscious if it
yeah, I think
happens.
undeniably you can hear other stuff in my music. Um on this album specifically that's coming out, I think there are a couple tracks where one of my co-writers and I, Harry Nichols, we sat down and we were like, let's write, like an anthem track, like a party anthem. And so like we listened to some anthemic, like, I was imagining like a college party where people are like jumping up and down and like singing,
Yeah.
I don't know, some like big party dance song. And so we were like listening to that vibe and like trying to get into that mindset, but we weren't like trying to write like any specific
Yeah. You
song.
weren't like taking notes and like making notes of things that you wanted to
Yeah.
include in the song. You were just
Yeah,
listening and
exactly. We were like, what are the
processing.
elements of these songs that like we want to bring into ours? Like the driving beat, the like anthemic, easy hook to repeat, 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 like things like that. And so that happened a little bit more on this album than other things have, where we were just kind of experimenting and like, let's throw this kind of a song on there, let's throw this kind of a song on there, just for fun. uh, but generally, I think more you can just hear the influence of things like 90s female singers, like a little musical theater is in there. There's definitely like some jazzy stuff comes up once in a while. Definitely like all the stuff that I've listened to throughout my life is seeps into it.
Yeah, awesome. And is there whether it's from this new album, Ingenue Corrupt, or from Risk of Love, any singles or songs that you've put out, is there a song that you wrote that sort of like it meant something to you while writing it and now sort of took on a different meaning, or you can hear something different in it?
Um, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that all of them grow with me a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Um, I think that Risk of Love, all the songs off that album were just like so important to me in the moment that I was writing them. And as I grow up and have new experiences, grow up, I'm in my like mid 30s now. As I grow up, I feel like they apply to so many different moments in my life and so many different feelings that I'm having. You know, like I wrote a song on my first album called Gaslight. It was pretty literally about being gaslit in a relationship, you know, but I think it applies to politics. It applies to like everything happening in our world right now. And I try when I do live shows to really like guide a narrative sort of as I'm, you know, putting together a set list so that I can kind of share a little bit of my thoughts on what's going on in the world or in my heart at the moment and use my music to kind of help tell that story. And I think specifically on Ingenue Corrupt, there's a couple songs that I mean, I'm proud of the whole album, shocker. But I would say there's two songs that stand out as like ones that I'm especially proud of putting out. My last couple singles, Bread for This and On My Knees. Bread for This, I feel like I was able to kind of put my processing of that abusive relationship and stuff and like my view of sort of shaking off the blaming myself mentality and seeing how actually like society really contributed a lot to how I was susceptible to being in a relationship like that, and how a lot of us are susceptible to that because we're raised to kind of just like accept poor treatment and laugh it off and apologize for someone else and stuff like that, especially women. And I'm really proud of that song for both uh being a catharsis for me in that experience, and also I think just like speaking to a societal issue that exists, that I hope to see change. I think I am seeing it change in the world and the younger generation of women. And On My Knees is sort of like the follow-up to that, of like a sexy, empowering, like take your power back and embody fully, like be fully embodied and own whatever is your sexuality and whatever you want to do, and no shame. So I'm pretty into that duo.
Yeah, and it's the songs as well as just the issues in general are very important and like, definitely have an impact and need, like you said, to change, which is slowly but surely making progress, emphasis on
So yeah.
slowly. But
Yeah.
yeah, and so with your music, I mentioned it in the intro, but you've been a part of all these different bands. You did a cappella in college, and with your band Frisky Business, you come out with the song "Grown Woman" that sort of takes off or becomes super popular. Did you have a sense that that was going to do well when you released it, or was
No,
it just totally
definitely
unexpected?
not. Yeah, so that was a Beyoncé cover. That was a duo, actually, an a cappella duo that I did. And we only released like 6 or 7 songs, I think, maybe not even that many. It was kind of an experimental little duo we tried.
Yeah.
I wish we'd been able to continue, but we moved halfway across the country from each other. But Grown Woman was just really fun, and it actually took a couple of years for it to gain traction online. So it was a big surprise when suddenly it was just like, oh my gosh, like those listens are,
This is taking off out of
yeah, what's
nowhere.
going on over there? But it's really cool. It was a really fun surprise, and it's been fun. And now Beyonce's is up there, so I think now we're the #2 Grown Woman track on Spotify. But for like years, we were #1. It was wild. It was very weird.
Yeah. And you like with the solo stuff, it's if someone hasn't heard it or wants to, give it a try, go listen to it, what song of yours would you recommend as like a first listen or like an intro
Ooh,
to Ariel Arbisser?
that is so hard. Off of the first album, probably like Gaslight. Um, or like Why, maybe. Why is like a rock song that it was actually also done a cappella on it with a different group that it won like the best rock song in the all of a cappella last year, which was pretty cool. And it's a good track. It's a good track. And off this album, I feel like it's a little harder because this album is really varied stylistically. So it's I would want to cater it to whoever's listening, which song I recommend. But I would probably, if I just had to like generalize, I would say Bread for This and On My Knees would be a good duo to listen to.
Yeah, great. Yeah, no, it's definitely a hard question. Like I don't know if you know them, but a while back I had Jacqueline Rowe on the show,
I've heard
and
of them. Yeah.
like I asked this same question, and they like thought about it for a bit, and they go, "I wish I knew what the listener was feeling," and
Right,
I was like,
exactly. That's the
that's
thing.
definitely a vibe because like most artists have songs that are all over the place in like mood
Yeah.
or what they're talking about, and so it's
Yeah, I
hard
have
to
like
find one
disco
song that sort of
songs.
like
It's like if
yeah.
somebody's like really dancey, it's like then I would push that one, you never know. But
Yeah, it's hard to find a
listen to them
song that
all.
sort of
Yeah.
embodies everything.
Yeah.
And so you have all these songs with, like important meanings, but just with your career in general or like your performances, is there a message you hope to convey through your career in general?
I think I mean I guess I haven't like thought about putting it in such specific words, but I think that if I were gonna boil it down, I would say that it's, empowering women especially and uh creating space for queer people to feel included and safe and have music that they also can groove to and like there's a lot of music off this upcoming album that's really gender neutral love songs and like fun stuff to play and that was a goal that I had for this album because I think the first one I wrote before I came out and as bi pan and I kind of by the time I released it I was out and I just felt like a little bit of a dissonance there, that I was putting out this very straight sounding album and this isn't like obviously queer, but it is very much, neutral in my mind. And so I think that it feels nice. And I think that people who come to the shows, it feels like that resonates with people. The kids and adults that stick around afterwards tend to be from communities that are less represented. And I just feel like it's hitting the right crowds and it's really meaningful. So that's really nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. And I think as much as it seems like it may have been like contradictory or anything like that, I think it's still totally fine because it's who you were at the time of writing it, or it's authentically you. It's not trying to write something different to mask who you are. It's just something
Right.
that you
Who I was in that
honestly
moment.
wrote, and it
Yeah,
just happens to, can be representative of a bunch of different things. And so
totally.
with Ariel Arbisser, your solo work, is it going to be probably the main thing you focus on or the main goal from now, or are you looking to get back into more bands and perform more collaboratively and things like that?
I'm definitely focused on this project for now, like my
Hmm.
music and trying to get my name and music out there and get some bigger performance opportunities. I'm still performing locally with like a wedding event band I sing backup with, which is a ton of fun and much lower pressure. And just like, I just get to dance and party and sing like oohs and ahs and stuff. And watch people have fun on the dance floor, which is always a blast. And then put more of my creative energy into this, which is a nice balance. And I don't know where it'll go from there. I think I'm just kind of seeing what opportunities come up, but this is definitely gonna remain the main focus.
Yeah, awesome. And if you got this opportunity to like make a song with any artist in the world, who would you want to get on a song with or
Sure.
collaborate with?
I think recently I've mentioned Janelle Monáe a couple times because I mean Janelle Monáe. Um,
Enough said.
yeah, exactly. Like amazing. So I'm gonna switch it up because I've already said her a couple times, though she remains. I don't know. I think that it would be kind of incredible to work with, um, like, uh, I mean, it sounds so cliche because of like a cappella background, but Sarah Bareilles would be really fun to work with. I think that our styles are pretty similar. I think I've moved away from my first album was very more similar to Sarah Bareilles stuff than this album is. But I think our voices would work really well together and that would be fun. I also think like this sounds wild, but I know Adina Menzel is like putting out more pop stuff these days, and we could put out some crazy diva pop dance tracks together, which would be pretty fun. I don't know, I'm pretty open. I'm open-minded.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me know who wants to work with me and we'll work it out. That's what I'll say.
And with your all your live experience, do you have maybe it is just one of these wedding shows? Do you have a live show you've done that's like your favorite or that especially sticks in your mind?
Oh man. I would say two come to mind off the top. I'm sure there's more, but one would be this past summer I did there's a nice summer concert series in the downtown area of where I live, the city where I live, and we got to headline it one of the nights this summer. And it was just a beautiful night. Like it was a huge crowd. We got to do the whole set. Like we didn't have an opener, we weren't opening, we just got the whole slot, which was an exciting, validating moment, for us as a pretty new band. Um, yeah, it was a great crowd. People danced the whole time. People were like singing along, which is a really cool experience as somebody writing your own music to like see people knowing your music and singing along to it is like a very moving experience. Um, some of my family was able to come up, so that was really cool and that was beautiful. And then the other one I would say probably we went to New York City um 2 years ago and one of our shows there was just like a really awesome show. It was my best show to date in the band and it was a really cool intimate space and it just felt like we kind of hit a new stride in the band at that point and it kind of sent us rolling into this past year, so that was really cool.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
are you is there something special to you about these smaller like intimate club settings, or do you have sort of goals or a bucket list of like bigger venues that you want to play one day?
I don't really know. I'm pretty open-minded. I think that I remember when I first started pursuing music and I people were like, "Well, what do you want to be like a pop star or something?" And I remember saying like, "I don't know, I just want to like make a living singing, like that's the dream." Um and also feeling like if I were going to go see my favorite artists, I would rather see them in a more intimate setting than like in an arena. And I think
Yeah.
that I would rather perform in a not like a tiny, tiny space, but like a space where you can still see everybody in the audience and kind of connect a little bit. I like to make eye contact with people when I perform. And so, a couple hundred people maybe is like that's the
Yeah.
that's the sweet spot,
Awesome.
but obviously I'm
Yeah.
not going to
And
turn down any space.
yeah, I think it is. Yeah, whether that is just your goal or you have a goal of like being as big as possible, either way, when you reach that point of like music being your source of income or like
Yes,
being the thing that supports your lifestyle, I think it's a big moment. Like there's a
for
band that
sure.
I had on a while ago that just semi recently hit that point, and it seemed like it was sort of like almost like a sense of relief for them. They were like,
I'm
okay, we can
sure.
sort of expand, do like what we want now. We don't have to, you know, obviously there's still, work on music, still keep up like the quality they were working on, but they were like, we don't, there's no sense of scrambling or like needing to
Right, I was
grind
just gonna
and
say
work
it's
towards
like it
that.
always feels like you're trying to beat the clock, right? Because like it's not like I can forever have this be my number one focus if I like never moves forward. I feel like,
Yeah,
there's a balance to be had. So I'm sure that a lot of artists struggle with that for sure. But
right.
that's the goal. That's the goal. I'm excited for whoever that was. That's awesome.
And so is there a song you've released that's sort of your favorite or like that you love listening to?
I love listening to all of music. I'm
As
just
you
like,
should, as you should.
yeah,
There's no
I mean,
problem to not have a favorite.
I have a problem where before I drop a song, I will listen to it a lot, like the day before, because I'm like, oh no, what is everybody gonna hear? What are they gonna hear? I forget like what parts they're gonna hear. Am I gonna like everything they're gonna listen to? And I forget that it's gonna be like 14 people, listening to it the next day, not like millions of people. Um, and then I do that again at the end of that day after it's been out. And then I tend to like not listen to it again for months and months. And that works great for me because then every time I revisit it, I'm like, oh yeah, this song rocks. I'm like super into this. Uh, so I don't know. I think there's a few songs on the album that I haven't listened to in months, and I'm pretty excited to like dive back into them this week. So yeah, I don't know. I'm excited if you will let me know your favorite when you check it out. That would be exciting.
Yeah, yeah, sure thing. And you just came out with or not just, but you recently came out with The Deep. That's your
Yeah, just
latest
on Friday.
single,
Yeah.
latest song. Um, what just tell us like the story behind that, what went into making it, what's it about, anything like that.
Sure. So that was one that my co-writer Harry brought to me the beginning of. He had like the hook and I think the first verse idea kind of fleshed out. And he just kind of left it with me for a while and it went great. I really it wasn't exactly like a vibe that was super intuitive to me. It's like a funkier, rockier, like quicker paced thing that I'm usually like drawn to, I feel like for myself. I like listening to that, but I don't usually write in that direction. Um but it was so cool. And then I was on vacation with my partner in Florida and I remember being on the balcony like early in the morning writing and just like the second verse, third verse and bridge just like flowed out of me and it was crazy because it's not usually quite that easy for me, I guess. And it made me fall in love with the song because it just felt like it was meant to be written that way, and that like I had those ideas ready to go. So it's about like making a big mistake and like deciding that you're gonna face it and kind of find your way back out of it. Which I think is a pretty universal experience for
Yeah,
to
that's
everyone.
awesome.
Yeah.
And now, these are singles off your new album, Ingenue Corrupt. It's only 3 days away while recording, but it'll be out by the time that
Yeah.
this comes out. What can you tell us about that project, or what can listeners expect from it?
Um, well, so that project was almost entirely written in this past year, and pretty much entirely recorded this past year. There were two singles we had released the previous year because I wasn't expecting to have them on an album. And then we just they fit on this, so we threw them on. And they deserve a little more time in the spotlight, so they should be on the album. Uh, but yeah, I came to the band and I just was like, hey, I want to release an album this year. Let's write an album. And we kind of hunkered down and wrote for a couple months and then recorded over the summer. And it was amazing because my first one took so long that this one was just a whirlwind. But yeah, I think this is really like I think it can be taken song by song. It can be taken as like a whole journey, the experience of going through it's really not about like a terrible relationship. It's about the processing after something bad happened, and the healing process after that. But I think it applies to so many different things, and if you can't relate like to that specific experience, I don't think that that will take anything away from the music that you're gonna hear. And yeah, there's different genres and vibes in every song. So if you don't like the first track, skip to the next one, and you're gonna find something you're gonna like. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And it's totally okay if there's not much of an answer to this question, because I'm sure you're
Okay.
focused on Ingenue Corrupt and, releasing it, what comes after. But
Yeah.
down the road after Ingenue Corrupt, is there anything you have plans for or you have in the works that, you're expecting to come, or is it the case that you're more just focused on this release?
I mean, a little bit of both. I am in the midst of planning our physical album release. I was hoping to kind of make it coincide with the digital, but it didn't work out for a handful of reasons, but that's okay because we're going to push it to slightly nicer weather. I don't know. I don't actually know where you're located, but up here it is snowing and cold and rough.
Yeah,
So
I'm visiting home in New York right now, but
okay.
it was really weird to like, close my blinds and go to bed last night with like grass outside and green, and then
Yep.
wake up and it's just white and snow.
Yeah.
And I was
Same.
like, okay, just
Same.
another day here.
Yeah.
And so I'm ready to head back to college where it's warmer.
Where do you go to college?
I'm out in California.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so I think, we just last week had to cancel a radio interview like an hour away just because the weather is so unpredictable right now.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be exciting to kind of plan something a little more extravagant for the warmer weather. So I'm definitely focused on planning an album release locally, and we're lining up our gigs for the summer. And I'm, you know, schmoozing the band about maybe trying to get some recording done again this year. Not a whole album, but maybe a single or two would be great. I think that would be a nice goal to kind of keep the rhythm going
Yeah.
every year a little bit. Yeah. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
you don't have to like just cut it off or like stop after this album
Yeah, for
release.
sure.
You can keep up some pace so that you're still working on something.
Yeah, and we have a bunch of stuff in the works, so it's just a matter of kind of keeping ourselves on a schedule to stay. And by ourselves, I mean me keeping myself on a schedule to get recording done and stuff.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Well, the last thing that I sort of have to start wrapping up is a segment I like to end with called Know Your Stuff, where I'm just gonna play short, quick like snippets of your music, and
Oh no.
the first part is just to like try to remember the song, name the song, and then you can get into like what went into it or the story behind it, like anything we didn't really get to in this
Okay.
interview.
I hope I know the songs. Okay. I'm sorry.
I'm sure you will.
On your skin, I wanna see
Bloodshed.
your
Yeah.
pretty. Okay. Okay, so that was Bloodshed. That was a single that we released almost a year and a half ago. With my co-writer Harry, and I wrote that also. And it's going to be on this album. That's one of the ones that we decided to kind of wrap into this album. That was the first track I released after my debut album, Risk of Love, and it was quite a left turn from Risk of Love, which was a very singer-songwritery, like Sarah Bareilles vibe, and then this was kind of like electro pop, dark. What did my band call it? They called it dramatic pop was the what they called it when they heard it. And it's like it's a bop, man. People love it live. I love singing. I At first I was worried that it would be really hard to sing live, but it's actually like kind of warm up every time that I do it. It feels really great to sing those really crazy runs.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good one.
Awesome. Yeah. And so the second one that I have here.
The ones who love me back. Well, that one's easy because the name's in it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
okay, Love Me Back. That's a good choice. So that's off my first album. It's actually one of the first two songs I ever wrote. Um, I wrote that and Caught Up, which is also on that album, in the same week. I went to like a songwriting workshop because I had always, like my whole life, I was like, I should be writing music, but I don't know how to do that, you know? And finally in my mid 20s, I like put myself in the songwriting workshop and started writing an album.
It went on from
Um,
there.
yeah, and Love Me Back is really like, that song is still one of my favorite songs that I've ever written. And I still, honestly, I cry almost every time that I perform that because it's just so wonderful. And it's
And it
just
means
about,
something to you. It's
yeah,
showing that you honestly have emotion tied to it.
yeah, I don't think there's very few songs that I've written that don't bring up a lot of emotion for me. But Love Me Back specifically, I think just is, you know, it's talking about the people who show up for you, the people who love you back, the people who are gonna be there and like support you and who will save you from the bad people, you know, who will like
Yeah.
keep you from making the choices or bring you back from the darkness. And I just find it so beautiful, especially performing live, like looking out at the people who've shown up for every show and be like, ah, the ones who love me back. Like it's the people who are in front of me right now, and it's moving every time. So, love that song.
Yeah. Great, great. And then the last one that I have before we start wrapping up is
I wanna be. Should I open up? All right, that's Risk of Love, the title track of my first album. Uh, I awkwardly on stage always call it the titular track because that is the correct word, but it's awkward every
yeah.
time I say it. And yet I can't stop myself every time. um, Risk of Love was written. My family used to do a book club once a year, and one year I recommended this book I read when I was like 12 that was basically interviews with thought leaders from all around the world. So like you know, people from different religions and from different cultures and things like that. And there was a quote in one of them that really resonated with me. A rabbi was talking about how loving, like letting yourself love is so brave because anytime that you choose to love, you're really risking heartbreak. Like you're not even risking it, you're just guaranteeing heartbreak, right? Because it sounds
Yeah.
depressing, but it's really not, because somebody's going to get sick or you're going to break up, or you know, somehow there's going to be loss if you're allowing yourself to let love in, but it's still worth the risk, you know. And it just like stuck with me, and it had to become a song. And so that's what that song is all about, is that it's really worth the risk of love, because otherwise, like, what are we even doing? You know, you're just like cruising along, not really feeling anything. So
Yeah.
to let yourself
Yeah.
do that.
Great. And that's, it had to become a song, which had to become the name of an album. And then that album and Ingenue Corrupt are going to be available now on Spotify and I'm sure all other platforms,
Yes.
all the music places. Ariel, thank you so much for coming on, telling us a bit about your music, you
Thank you
as
so
a
much.
person. Where can people find you or your music online, or anything else you want to shout out or promote? Feel free to do
Sure.
it now.
Anywhere you get your music streaming or downloading online, you can find me, Ariel Arbisser, and pretty much any social media site, I'm at Ariel Arbisser. I'm most active on Facebook and Instagram. I'm trying to be more active on TikTok. If you follow me on TikTok, it would make me more active because I need to get lives going. Man, help me get lives. That's my sad little
That
plea.
that's the goal. You gotta be able to get live on TikTok.
Yeah, I feel like I would be really good on lives on TikTok, but I gotta be able to prove that, you know. Give me some love on there. That's what I'll say. No, but really, I just hope to see people at some point, maybe at a show, and if you check out my music, maybe you'll let me know your favorite stuff. That'd be awesome.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you
Well,
so much
thank
for
you
your
so
time.
much for coming on. If you're listening to this, go check out Ingenue Corrupt by Ariel Arbisser. And yeah, thank you. I
Yeah.
can't wait to
Thank
see what you
you.
have coming later in the year.
Thank you.